This podcast is brought to you by the Association for Coaching, an international professional body which is advancing coaching in business and society worldwide. I am Maxine Bell, a coach, writer and artist, and your host for the latest AC podcast series, Let's Make Coaching Creative. In this series, I'm having inspirational conversations with innovative, passionate coaches who use various creative tools with their clients. They will share their journeys, insights and expertise currently so relevant in a changing, uncertain world. We hope this series opens your eyes to new ways of coaching that allow both us and our clients to bring together all that we are. My guest today is Pearl Jordan, coach, speaker, performance and wellbeing specialist, and founder of the Rhythmic Remedy performance and wellbeing technique, which is a multidisciplinary, holistic approach to personal and professional development. Welcome, Pearl.
It's lovely to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Maxine. I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
Yes, so am I. We had a great informal chat before this started. So now one of the things I got from talking to you before was your personal story and how relevant that is to what you do now and why you're so passionate about what you do. Your story is one of suppression and discrimination, but also one of tremendous resilience, persistence and inspiration. So I wondered if you'd be able to share sort of the main parts of your stories with the listeners that led you up to becoming a coach and creating your Rhythmic Remedy.
It's wonderful. You know, it's all about our stories, isn't it? Our stories make us and how we choose to potentially change our stories. So I was born in London to Caribbean parents and lived in this amazing St. Lucian community. And with that, we were in and out of each other's houses and felt like we were in a mini St. Lucia. But what came with that was a very old-fashioned upbringing, shall we say, the very strict Catholic, do as you're told, be very careful, limited self-expression, shall we say, suppressive type upbringing. So I had that in the background. And what was wonderful, though, as part of that community was the amount of parties and dancing there was. There was always a house party, and have this real sense of, despite this rigidity in a way, a lot of movement, a lot of free flow, a lot of music in my childhood. And also on a Saturday, they used to play music. They used to have musicals on TV. And I used to love watching those. And I remember I used to get a real buzz, especially if it was like West Side Story or anything to do with Gene Kelly, you know, the old school musical theatre type films. And I used to get a real buzz from that. And also there was something else that used to be on TV. I think it was a Saturday night. It's called a black and white minstrel show. What was it? We used to say it was like Tar, but blacken up. And go, yes. Mommy, how I love you, and all that kind of stuff. And we used to, as a family, every Saturday, we used to get really excited to watch the black and white minstrel show. And it was really weird as I got older to find out that actually really, I don't know at what point I started realising that's supposed to be expression of me as a black person. We never saw it that way. In fact, we didn't really, I think there was in my family, there was this whole sort of, we don't care, it's music and it's dancing and we like music and we like dancing. And so we're just going to watch it. It was really as simple as that. So we weren't actually offended because it wasn't a reflection of us at all. But on reflection, when I look at that, I go, there was always something else going on within me. I had this clear image of me as a child, sort of sitting perplexed in front of this box and wondering, how do you get in there? How do you get in that box? The TV, I couldn't quite get my head around how people could actually be on TV. So that so much wasn't part of my community at all. And so I know that was always in the space, like a longing and a wanting to, and no idea how that was going to happen. And then when I was a teenager, this wonderful teacher came to our school, the lovely Jenny, and she brought dance into a very strict Catholic school, which was, I still don't know how she ended up in there, but it was absolutely wonderful. And that's when I realised, I started to, I guess, tap into the joy of dance. So I loved watching it, but I didn't know it was available to me ever. So when Jen arrived, it was just like, she just opened up a new world, a new sense of self, my confidence, everything. It was all about dance, all about dance. And very quickly she had me assisting, and me and my very dear friend Jean, we would run the after school clubs with about 90 children in there, and we were constantly teaching and teaching and teaching. And I realized I had this real love. It was an opportunity to explore that very thing that I wondered how you even, how do they do that? How do they get in the box? And remember, way back then, there was no reflection of me on the TV in that space. None at all.
No.
So to have someone come to our school and encourage me to explore dance and to come to my very strict upbringing home and to, convince my parents to allow me to do a performing arts degree, that was huge. It was huge because it was just like, well, what is dance? She needs to go and find a job in a bank because for them it's really important, security. Anyway, the short version is we managed to convince them. And along the journey of doing my performing arts degree and being very good, I'm giving you the short version, I'd continued teaching from the age of 14. I was teaching solo by the age of 17. And I continued teaching throughout my training experience. And it was a wonderful time, the teaching. I learned on the job. It was great. But as I started to go more into the professional training, I started to realize more issues, shall we say. So I used to go to this wonderful place called WAC, Weekend Arts College. And in that space, and I must be very clear, not the WAC Arts of today, but it was called Weekend Arts College. And in that space, it was very multicultural. And it was actually created in order to make the arts available to all, so that finances would never be the reason why you couldn't experience the performing arts. And so therefore, I was able to attend that college on a weekend. And in that space, through the arts, I started to learn more about who I was, more of a voice in that space. For the first time being able to express and create and pull on drama and dance and music. And it was just so freeing, not only for myself, but for a lot of my black friends. We all said the same thing, that when we were at WAC, it just allowed us a sort of like a liberation of freedom that we weren't experiencing in our lives and in our schools and in our school anywhere else. And so that was a really great stepping stone. But as I continued into the professional arena, I started to realize more and more in relation to the discrimination. So I became a jazz dancer, a commercial jazz dancer. And even prior to that, I had been to a school and I was told that if I got rid of them, and the them were my thighs and my black butt. If I got rid of them, there would be a place for me.
I remember you said before that the music was white music. The bodies they wanted were white bodies.
Yeah.
So this was more of the darker side of dance, really, at that time for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when I used to audition, it was also the same thing. I'd walk into a room and I'd be like the one black person, maybe another, and then I'd be dark skinned and very aware of the fact that I was dark skinned, which caused a problem. So I'd look from right to left and left to right, and I'd see all the white girls or the blonde girls, and also knowing that if there were two black girls in that space, then there was never, there was only room for one. There was always room for the one token. So there were many experiences that, throughout that, enough to break you, to be honest. And I had to, I guess, when I look back, I think I had such a love for dance that along the way I attracted the angels, I would say the earth angels, who saw that in me and who helped pull me back on course or back in alignment with who I am and what I stand for, and the gift that I have through dance. And as a teacher, when I look back, I go, as a teacher, I was always looking at the individuals. How can I best serve them? What do they want? What are their needs? When I formed a jazz dance company and I taught that nationally and internationally for 10 years with that very same friend, Jean, for 10 years, we were always looking at needs. Now, we were clueless. we had this dance company because we were really great teachers, because we'd been teaching together from the age of 14, you know, and then it became a professional company because we had become professionals. But we also did that because it gave us an outlet that I wasn't being given the opportunity to really, I don't know, give everything to my art and my performance, because there were so few opportunities for me. And I remember a time even thinking about what to do about my hair and if I could look more European and, you know, all those kind of experiences. So having the jazz dance company was wonderful because it allowed me to show up in my truth. And it also allowed me to bring all those skills that I had gained over the years in terms of looking at people as individuals and say, what do they want? How can I help them to best, you know, surprise themselves with movement? So I came to realise that all the skills, I know we're going to be speaking later about my coaching, but I realized that I was already in that space for a very long time, and that all the adversities and all the struggles and all the reasons to potentially give up, because I've had to work so deeply and go so deeply to keep myself within the arts, especially as a dancer, my self-development in a way has really made me the coach and how I show up today. It's because of those skills. You know, like we say, our stories bring us to where we are today. And I think because I had so many experiences, so many reasons to possibly say, can't do this. I mean, I did almost give up at one point until I was reminded, who are you? And do you want to be you'll never be the white person they're trying to make you be, because A, there is your skin, and B, you know, that's not who you are. Who are you? And that has really played a huge part with where I am today, with the story of who are you? What is your truth? What is your dance? And helping people to stay on that path.
And I think it's a bit strange as well when you think about it, that when I look back at old movies, and you and I both were jointly great fans of Gene Kelly, I know, but we also talked about some of the other clips in old movies where some of the best dance performances, some of the best music are actually from black people. They're not from white people. And in fact, I'm absolutely certain that Gene Kelly was probably influenced by some of that, from the way he dances.
Yes.
So
yeah.
There is a huge amount of black culture within that we sort of maybe have claimed as white people, when actually that's not the truth. As you know, history is very one-sided sometimes. So it's slightly ironic that to not be yourself, when I look at different cultures like your own, where dance is your dance and your movement and the way you move your bodies, it's absolutely fantastic and much freer than most of the stiffer white version of dancing. I'm not saying that's even the real us, but it's what a lot of our dance has been at times. So all that richness and diversity was existing in some ways, but just wasn't recognised and celebrated. In fact, what I hear from you is that what you did with your story is you found your own dance company and you found your own way, despite everything, to celebrate that part, you know, that very real part and that sense of self. Because I know you've said before that it interfered with your sense of self, all those different experiences. But for me, there's, I know you had lots of earth angels, you said, pull you back. But I really am inspired by the fire in your own belly, that sort of real sense of knowing about who you were, I think is a very powerful thing to experience, and knowing yourself to then become a coach.
Yeah, totally. And by the way, the Gene Kellys and the Fred Astaires always mention their inspirations, like the Nicholas brothers, and, you know, even Elvis Presley used to hang out with the black guys so that he knew how to. He's got his favourite. If we were standing, I would show you his favourite hits. Dun, dun, dun. That we know. Well, that's literally a Lindy Hop step that I love showing and say, this is where Elvis got it from.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, he has talked about his southern influences.
Yeah, they all say it's just unfortunate the way it was. You know, we always had to be in the background of that. But things are changing. Yeah.
Yeah, not there 100%, but
not
changing.
Not there 100%, but changing. Yeah.
I was just thinking as well that, just for the listeners, you know, I'm white and you're black. And I was thinking about just another person, one of our other guests, Laurette, who I've spoken to before. We were talking about finding connection. And I think despite your very different experiences in life and my very different experiences in life, we found connection through our own different versions of suppression. and not being able to find our voice. And it's interesting that we've both ended up as coaches. When we're talking about connection, and despite the amount of diversity in life, there are common themes in all our stories, as you say, the suppression of our voices, ourselves, our creativity, the sense of, it's almost like drowning at times that can happen, and the almost sort of fight for our lives. That's how it's felt for me at times. And the attempt of others to put us into boxes. So there is that celebration of diversity, but I also can gain from, and I'm sure this happens with your clients, this real sense of connection through these shared experiences of our stories and how important they are. So I was just wondering how that plays out in your coaching sessions. Maybe we should backtrack. I just realised that the listeners haven't heard actually what happened to you that led you into coaching, when your dancing ended and when it restarted, that big crisis point that was so crucial to your story. So I do apologise. So let's cover that first.
Let's cover that first. Okay, so having toured the company for 10 years, I had 2 small ones and decided it was time to maybe stop handing them to everybody and start being mummy and looking after them. And that was around my 40s, I think. And every cycle gives us an opportunity to reevaluate, doesn't it? I don't know if you found that. And so I was around that age group, and I decided to see if there's anything else I could do, because it had always been dance. And my son had been diagnosed asthmatic, and I'd been introduced to homeopathy, and I saw the wonders of that and the brilliance of that. And I thought, why don't I look into the complementary field? So I started looking into that, and I retrained as a homeopath, and then I went into NLP and hypnotherapy and coaching, NLP coaching and all that. So, and once I'd done all that training, I thought, now what? Because I have the performance and have this health and well-being side to me, what am I going to do with it? So I decided in my wisdom to let go of dance. I thought, how else am I going to know? How else am I going to know if the type of homeopath or health and how am I going to know what the complementary field can bring to me professionally? If I don't, I have to leave dance, because everything was still dance. I was still choreographing, still directing, So I decided to let it go, to find out who I was as a health and well-being person, as you do. And then I found that I started to feel quite low. I started to doubt all things. And then after a year, I realised that I had actually had a year where I'd been completely depressed. I felt as though I'd lost myself, no sense of self. It was an awful time. I wasn't speaking to anyone because I couldn't work out what was going on. I just knew there was a lull, heaviness, dragging my feet. Everything seemed slow and sluggish. And after about a year, I stopped and had a conversation with my husband, because I thought, I'm losing my mind now. Through many conversations, I realised that I was depressed. And then when I looked at this more deeply, I realised that the reason why I was depressed is that I'd let go of dance. That it wasn't part of, and also my identity was all within dance. And I'd meet people from the dance community and they didn't know how to speak to me. It's like there was a deaf or something. It was really weird. So I thought, identity-less in a way. And when I realised it was dance, and I realised that the reason why I felt so depressed was because that dance feeds my soul. And I hadn't realised how important, I knew it was my everything, but I didn't know it was like my soul food. I didn't understand that. And once that became clear, it was like, right, I've got to get dance back into my life. But how? Because I didn't want to go back to be a jazz dancer. I didn't want to have the dance company. So it was like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? And literally one day, and throughout this, I've also had my different coaches, and go to my regular homeopath, and was getting a lot of support in order to help me to gain clarity. And then literally one day I was sitting in meditation, and I was asking, I call it like in beggar mode, I was like, what am I going to do? What is all this dance history and performance history and all this well-being? What am I going to do? I was really being melodramatic. And I literally suddenly heard words in my head. Pearl, are you offbeat or on beat? In tune or out of tune? Whose dance are you dancing to anyway? And the conversation just continued, like conversation, the voice just kept on using dance vocabulary in this way. And I just let it go. And once it had completed, I was just like, oh, thank you. There's the answer. I'm going to bring dance into the wellness, find a partnership between the two. And dance has always been a healing tool, which I hadn't really thought of when I think of the amount of lives that I'd changed, hundreds and thousands over the years since I started teaching. I'd watch people grow. I'd watch people come in feeling really heavy and be skipping out of the rooms. You know, I'd observed this from the age of 14. I'm like, you silly sausage. Of course you're going to bring the two together. And then the journey was, okay, what does that mean? And then what are you going to call it? And then in the end, I decided after much searching and exploration and being in a studio, I have to thank a Centre of Advanced Training called Swindon Dance. And they allowed me to come in and work with their students and explore the idea of bringing dance with the well-being and creating this way of working. That's like, you know, I say it's a movement-inspired holistic approach to personal and professional development. And so once I decided on the name, Rhythmic Remedy, because of rhythm and jazz dance and all that sort of, but also the rhythms of our body and the cycles of life and the remedies being a solution. It was just like, it makes so much sense. Got to be the Rhythmic Remedy. And so that's how I started. That's how it became the Rhythmic Remedy. And then that's when I started thinking, right, let's look at this more specifically in relation to coaching and running workshops and speaking, and how are you using the vocabulary of dance all the time as an analogy. You know, I say dance, you know, life skills through dance or through the eye of a dancer. And it's amazing. It's so exciting because it allows me to be so creative. And we were talking earlier on about our voice, you know, not having access to our voice. Even while I explore this, because at the time it was so unusual, I went through a lot of struggles and doubts because people would look at me like, what is she talking about? What is she on? What is this movement as an, you know, as a coaching tool? What is she on? There was no such thing. People weren't even using words like inspiration at that time, you know, whereas my brain was already there. But then I was doubting myself because of my past experiences. I was finding that the little Pearl, my inner child, would go, oh, we're back here again. We're being shut down. Run away, scurry, not safe, not safe, not safe. Shut it down. And then I had to go, no, you're going to come out because, oh my gosh, it was just like a dance, a merry dance of 2 steps back, 4 steps forward, you know, 3 steps back. It was all that way until now. Now I'm at that point. Thankfully, I go, yeah, I get it. And I can help you to get it too. Anyway, I see the evidence all the time now. So I don't even have to justify it. I don't need anyone's permission. I get it. And that's the most important thing.
I was just watching you as you talk. You're still dancing. Your body still moves around. It is that so much part of you. Your shoulders are going, and you're twisting from your waist. So it's really fun to listen and watch you at the same time. Because as you talk about dance, you're still dancing. It's almost as though it's always there with your breath. That's how it seems. When you do your coaching sessions, what actually happens in your sessions with the dance, the movement? What is the Rhythmic Remedy in more detail? How do you work with clients in that space?
Yeah, so it's very interesting. So on a one-to-one basis, I've always said to my clients, and still do, you do understand that this is a dance. And they say, what do you mean? Do I have to dance? I go, no, this is a dance. This conversation between us is a dance because I interpret everything as a dance. And when you dancers do partner dance, like jiving or, you know, any form of partner dance, the most important thing, you need to know the steps. But the number one is the rhythm, that you both have the same rhythm. So for me, when I'm working first on the one-to-one basis, I'm aware that it's important for me to tune into the rhythm of the client. And then we start exchanging, if that makes sense. And so I've always said, so we are having a dance. So that conversation started on a one-to-one basis. And then what I found was during the workshop situation was that dance, of course, being non-verbal, I found that the more I observed individuals, and actually, I would be watching people, observing and learning from what they gave, what they didn't give, how free they were, how restricted they were. So when I started with more of my coaching hat on and I'd be working in workshops, I realized that I could tell by the way someone connected or didn't connect in that space. Suddenly my brain would go and see in terms of life. And so I found that I would ask a question and then they would respond and we'd always go, oh my goodness, I never knew that. So what I found was that individuals are learning about themselves through the workshops, the movement workshops, and also lots of tears, always lots of tears. Not because they're sad to be there, because of the release, because movement helps us to unblock and flow, right? So in that space, I started realizing, I'd been doing it, but I wasn't consciously aware of it until the time that I was running a workshop with my dear friend, singer-songwriter Lucinda Drayton, and we're doing this workshop called Sing Your Heart Out, Dance Your Socks Off. We're having this amazing day with a group. And this woman had arrived quite tense and she wasn't interconnecting, very much in her own space. We weren't sure what was going on, but it's like, let's not the point to ask any questions. She's here. Let's have let's hope she has the best possible experience. And then at the end of that day, when we sat and explored what we had learned, what had been of value to them, she burst into tears. And she said, it's time to write my book.
Wow.
And in that moment, I was thinking, what? In my head, I'm really calm on the outside. But in my head, I'm like, what? Write your book? How? Book? My head was exploding with, write your book? You've been inspired to write and she was crying. And I'm like, how does dancing and singing all day open up whatever it is for hers, and now's the time to write my book. That was such a turning point for me. Because I thought so much, oh my gosh, write a book. Not I'm now going to go and do dance classes at the gym. Now is the time to write the book. And she explained she'd had this idea for ages and she never had the confidence. Blah, blah, blah. Now is the time to write my book. And I've witnessed this again. And what I find is I'm very intuitive. I don't come in with questions. All I know is there will be a theme, like sing your heart out, dance your socks off, or move to your menopausal beat, or gratitude jive. I just know that. And then I bring music that will have subliminal messages. So I'm not making an announcement, but I'm bringing, so it can be words in the song, it could be lyrics, but sometimes it's the tone of the music that I feel so strongly. And I know that's going to help the individuals in that session to open up. And to find whatever it is that they're searching for. Now, at the beginning, I just say, you're here. You may know why you're here. You may not know why you're here, but I ask you to remain curious and be open to playing. Because that's all we do. We play. I'm not teaching dance. I mean, the most complex is musical statues. We're just playing and having fun. But there's a lot of magic in there because also I believe in the power of intention. And my pure intention is that each and every individual finds or gets exactly what they need, their unique needs. We're all, as we were saying earlier, the diversity is wonderful. And how we can bring our, what makes us unique. I talk about, USP, unique selling point.
Yeah.
Well, I say it's about, if we forget unique selling point, we say, what's your uniquely special purpose or your uniquely special power? Or your unique, and we make up all the, that's how we use it. And what is it that you need? Trust that whatever it is, it will show up for you today. And I'm observing. So the words, it's the non-verbal expression, the curves that appear in the space. And because I am holding that pure intention for those individuals, I've done it for so long now. I just know that magic, I love to say magic, things open, people come to realizations. And also when you're in a space with people, how much do you connect? How much are you willing to bring that individuality, what it is that makes you diverse? How willing are you to allow yourself to celebrate your differences and at the same time see what brings you together? I mean, it's such an honor to be in that space and to help support that and to guide that as a dance, almost like a piece of choreography, It's just wonderful. And I don't know either. I haven't come in with prepared questions. I've got a sense. But for me, if I'm truly tune in to their needs, then I have to let go of any preconceived anythings, which is what a coach does anyway. We're not coming in with our stuff. We have to be very present, don't we, and open and
yes.
in that way. And so for me, it's bringing those coaching skills in. And I never thought of it as coaching. And someone said, "You're really great at coaching with dance in the sessions, aren't you?" And I went, "Of course, that's what I'm doing," because I've been doing it innately for so long. So once that's what you're doing, right? This is amazing. Amazing. So the dance went from the conversation of one-to-one dancing to really understanding it from that in that workshop. So I always use movement. If I'm speaking, I use movement. As a speaker, I'm on stage and I use movement. I may get people to move or whatever, but it's always in that very safe way because it's not about me as coaches. We know this. It's not about us. It's about the client, isn't it? It's about the person we're holding the space for. So I always have that intention. So I can judge based on my level of experience, the type of movement to bring into that space. So I don't plan it. I literally am on the moment and feed into the vibe and trust myself enough now to know that it will be exactly as much or as little as those individuals need.
That's such an authentic way to work. Just that trusting yourself. And I think that's a personal journey for a lot of us to learn to trust ourselves, but particularly when we've lost our voice in some way, our creativity, our voice, whatever form that takes for us. And once we start calling that back in, and we have to rebuild that trust. But you just needed reminding. You already had it there, really, by the sounds of it.
Totally.
From your teaching at such a young age. You've been doing it since you were 14. So it's just needed a couple of voices in the form of coaches or other people that have reminded you that this is you.
Yeah.
And to trust that. So it's again, very inspiring to hear that level of trust and what that creates, what kind of space that creates for the clients that you work with.
And also to say that things run deep. So I can express the trust, but I know that runs deep. So I have to really look after her. When I say her, little Pearl, I have to look after her so she hangs on to that trust, because every day is a new day to forget that I've reached that, it's a journey and it's forever evolving. So the trust in terms of how I work and all that is very much there, but I also have to keep on checking in on me and see where I'm at in terms of my personal journey and how much I'm trusting beyond that. But when I'm in that space of work with those individuals, because I'm such a people person, it's wonderful. So it helps me in many ways. And I always say to my clients, I thank you, because this is a two-way thing, or anyone I have the privilege to work with or workshop with or train. This is a two-way thing. And this journey is for me as much as it is for you. So I'm always so thankful, because it gives me an opportunity to check in, and see, it's my voice. Oh yeah, I'm using my voice again. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm so thankful for this opportunity, and it continues. I haven't arrived. We're always working on it. Another layer of do you really trust your voice? We're going to give you this opportunity.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, I really relate to everything you're saying. I wanted to be a dancer when I was young. It was very much and still feels very much in me, but I didn't, lots of reasons why it wasn't pursued. And, you know, I've had a lot of grief over that process. And then I had a major life crisis some years ago and ended up at the age of 50 doing my first ever dance performance as part of a solo autobiographical theatre thing that I just tried out on a whim. And I did a 13-minute dance piece about my relationship with my body, which included some quite difficult things. But the process of that, the process of the way synchronistically the most amazing music came my way to really hit the emotions of what I was doing. And I can just remember after it, because it was terrifying, it wasn't easy, but after it, that sense of freedom, that sense of finding myself, the sense of strength and courage I felt of what I'd done. And as you said, it was like I'd found my voice and my way in that moment. So, and I think I still use dance at home as in a kind of journaling way. I if I don't feel like writing a journal, I move. So I very much, you know, might be coming up to where you live to do one of your workshops, but it is powerful. We don't move our bodies much day to day. We're quite stiff, and you're right, things do get stuck. And in a way, it reflects a little bit about one of the aspects of coaching I find interesting is coaching started off very originally very goal orientated, always about moving forward. But from my personal experience, having worked with people for 30 years in other roles, not just as a coach, is that sometimes we have to go back to move forward. Do you get that in the dance sometimes, where some of those tears are maybe grief over something that's in the past that's being released in that moment?
Totally. Oh, totally. I mean, I remember a moment when I was invited to improvise, and I was really scared to do that. I think I was in my 40s. I was a jazz dancer. Jazz dancers improvise, you know, that's what. And I managed to not improvise on a stage. In the studio I could, but not on the stage. And I was invited to. And at first I resisted, but when I eventually thought, I heard the voice, if not now, then when? So I thought, you see, I always have these great voices in my whispers. So I went on the stage and I was shaking. But for me, it was really important that I just had to get over that hurdle. And anyway, so I did this dance, I improvised. And when I finished, everyone's, you know, there was like applause and everyone jumped up. And I realized the amount of tension that I'd been holding in my body for all those years. So we can think we're moving, you know, that's what the body in its wisdom, it can hold onto a lot for a very long time until such time enough already. And that can show up in many different ways. So for me, when I did that dance, I realized how much tension I'd been holding in my body around the subject of improvising, which I think was very much linked to my voice. Because when you improvise, you show up in your truth in that moment. And I didn't, for someone who'd been suppressed for so long, I think to improvise, I didn't trust myself. It was about outside looking in. Will they like me? Will they hate me? Do you know what I mean? There's all that stuff going on around it. So, but when I did do that dance, of course, I saw it was well received. But I ended up with a bad back, could hardly move for 3 weeks.
Interesting.
And that's because of the amount of tension that I've been holding. And actually, I give thanks for every time my body gives me an opportunity to recognize what it's been holding for me. Because 3 weeks, so imagine, all I needed was a form of some trauma to make that become something else, far more deep. So that moment of dance gave me the opportunity to release years worth of anxiety around dance experiences and stuff, and not feeling good enough, not feeling all those feelings. So that's what, you know, I have so many personal experiences with movement, gifts, which is why when I feel so honored that I can use it in this way and help people to release so many mental and emotional blockages that come through movement, you know, playfulness.
And a lot of the core of coaching is about clients coming feeling stuck, isn't it?
That's right.
You know, feeling stuck. So what you're saying is that movement of the body, you know, all that stuckness that we feel mentally and maybe emotionally is sitting in our body.
Yeah.
And by putting ourselves in a situation like at one of your workshops where we allow that movement, we're working on a subconscious level with the mental and emotional stuckness.
Totally.
Letting our body speak for that
Totally.
without having to find words, you know, which is very much the core of this whole series, really, is that creativity takes us beyond words. It takes us to those deeper levels of expression.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, sometimes words get in the way. Sometimes it depends on what we've learned around words. Like I learned things like I'm not great at putting words on paper. You know, like writing dissertations. I learned that I couldn't, like I said, historically, I learned that, I couldn't freely speak up, so sometimes, when you can forget the words and just express in yourself, through your body, and everything's connected. And that's what I love about the complementary side of learning, the mentally, emotional, the physical, the spiritual, we are it all. And so when we are moving, we don't even know which bits we're releasing or we're curving or flowing in, it's like, woohoo, mental, our thinking's like, woohoo, free to express, or our emotion, the heart is pumping like, oh yeah, loving this. Oh, do you know what I mean? Yeah. We don't even know which bits, which parts in our cells, it's just like, woohoo. So I love that. I love that because I stop people. I go, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? I direct them to those 4 areas, which they've never done before. And they go, what? What are you thinking? And when you realize what you're thinking, where are you feeling it in your body? Because there may be an association. So I help them to see the mind-body connection, mind-body, and they go, oh, yeah, your body's speaking to you every day. So sometimes if you feel that again, you know that you're thinking this because you recognize the two are connected. It's just such a wonderful, organic way of being, when you're in that space, because it impacts all parts of you. It's nothing's in isolation when you're moving. Even if you're moving an arm, that is connected here and it goes deeper. And, it's just incredible. Incredible.
And that's really important. I think a lot of the conversations about creativity is about, we often compartmentalize ourselves, whether it's into different roles. I can't mix this with that. I can't mix that with this. And I think that creates a lot of personal pain for us often.
Yeah.
But also helps with the keeping stuck. So what you're saying with the movement is it's bringing everything back together, but by clearing out some of that past or some of that stuckness, some of that yuckiness, we're making room for more flow, and we're making room maybe for lasting change.
Totally. And also to say, the conversation we're having today it's great and it's wonderful. When I go into my workshops, I don't preempt anything. They don't know the secret ingredients that are in that space. They just think, oh, gratitude jive. Yes, let's learn how to jive, Lindy Hop jive, and look at all the things that we've got to be grateful for. I know that there are these little slivers are in the space that will allow for that on a bigger level, because I will never presume or assume someone's journey or someone's needs. As coaches, we don't, do we? We have to, it's important to be in that neutral space. So, I might say in the marketing material, start to flow or something, but all the deeper bits, I tend to, because it's great to remain curious and to see what unfolds for each and every one of us, including myself in that space. And the thing about boxing, I had that so much. Someone said to me, what's that expression, Jack of all trades, master of none. I've had that thrown at me. Oh, I wouldn't come to you ever because you're like a jack of all trades, master of none. And I was like, what? It was just like, I really felt that, that sound for those of you listening was me feeling winded. Because it was just like, well, you're a dancer, choreographer, director, you put on shows, you're a teacher, and you're a homeopath, you're a number, and they just go all the list. And they're like...
You're multi-passionate.
Yeah, I'm a Renaissance woman.
And can I just ask a practical question as well before we finish? Do you have to be a dancer to do your workshops?
Never.
Do you have to be bendy and flexible to do your workshops? Can you come with a few, physical limitations?
Yeah, you bring yourself, because the workshops, definitely not a dancer. Definitely the way that I think I mentioned this earlier on, I don't teach dance. I literally don't. We play musical statues and we go from there.
Okay.
Literally. And then based on who's in the space and based on their responses, I make up games in that moment. Some I pull on in my past. And there's another reason. There are other reasons why I consciously made a decision not to teach dance. Unless someone's with me on a long course and they want me to teach them a little something. A few reasons. One is I know about my experiences of people imposing dance on me and trying to make me into a dance type person that I never was. I would never do that to anybody else. So my way of moving may not fit those individuals, right? So I'm not going to teach you to move, because we all know how to move because we can walk. I always start off with walking. So there is that in the background. But also once when I was teaching a workshop with a group of women, I could see they were trying to be me. There was a moment and I thought, they're trying to be me. They're trying to move like Pearl. No. We have to hold on to what's uniquely special about each and every one of us. And in that moment, I made that decision, and I've never taught a step since then. Unless I've been with a group over a period of 12 weeks or something, and they say, oh, please teach us 1 or 2 steps. And then I will. And we make a little routine and we have a laugh about it. And then everyone, creates it together so that they take ownership of the routine. But I remember thinking, not having that, because this is about your voice, your way. This is about your movement, your way. This is about you dancing your dance, your way. Not to anybody else's tune, your tune. It's about reconnecting to your truth. It's about remembering your truth, the essence of who you are. That's what this time together is. So it's important that the space is a space where you reconnect to yourself, and surprise yourself.
And that's you working with integrity as well as a coach, because you've done that journey yourself, and you've been stopped in your tracks on that journey as well and had to fight back each time. So that's a very real and powerful thing for you to work with your clients. So I can imagine a great impact. Pearl, it's been absolutely wonderful listening to you and you sharing your passion. I'm sure your passion is going to ooze out of into people's headphones or whatever they're listening. So thank you so much. Yes, and of course you're completing your book at the moment, aren't you? Would you like to tell the listeners more about that?
Yes, my book is titled Dancing to the Rhythm of Your Life. And it's a wonderful opportunity for me to explore my story, but also the idea of our unique rhythm and tuning into who we are, the truth of who we are. Finding your own inner DJ and dancing to the rhythm of that beat and daring to do that and allowing you to work and looking at life from that perspective. The syncopation of life, and then how does you and your unique rhythm navigate that? There was a time when I thought, is it dancing to the rhythms of life? And I thought, well, no, that's because that's us always trying to adapt to something else. It's about connecting to your unique rhythm and seeing how you can live your life from that perspective. Dare you allow yourself? I don't know if you've ever watched people on the dance floor, and you've watched and you go, what, I don't quite get that rhythm. And then I in my young years, I'd go, I don't get that rhythm. Oh my gosh, my friends. And I go, oh my gosh, what kind of rhythm is that? And now I go, yeah, but it's their unique rhythm, isn't it? And they are so free in that space. Look at the joy. And that's what it's about. Dancing to the rhythm of your life, your rhythm. and bringing that out there and having the courage. So I look at life from that perspective and the vocabulary of dance. So yeah, it's all using dance within the book, but ultimately it's about a journey of your truth, and it's a journey of a return to self-love and reconnecting to your voice and looking at all the things that can get in the way, and at the same time using the dance vocabulary to help support that and ground that, so we feel as though we've gone on a dance journey together. So let's see.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
Thank you. Could you just tell the listeners how they could contact you?
Yes, the best way, and thank you, Maxine. This has been great. I feel like I've had a great dance with you today. The best way to contact me is via my website, pearljordan.com. It's just my name. And there are two ways. So one is, get in touch, which allows you to leave a message. And the other, there's a button, orange button on the right-hand sort of corner called Pearls of Wisdom. And that's the newsletter. And if you press on that, then that allows you to add yourself to the mailing list. And then I'll keep you informed of any events and workshops that are coming.
That's wonderful. I'm sure you're going to get some response from this, but thank you so much. I think you've just really added a whole another dimension to the idea of creative coaching. So that's just really wonderful, and brought your own personal story in with that, which is inspiring. So thank you ever so much. And I am very tempted to sign up, so I'm sure we'll talk again.
Brilliant. Thank you, Maxine. It's been wonderful. Thank you for inviting me to share my story. It's very important to me. So I thank you for this opportunity and this platform. And I look forward to us literally dancing together. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to another podcast by the Association for Coaching. I have been Maxine Bell. For 20 years, the AC's purpose has been to inspire and champion coaching excellence, advance the coaching profession, and make a sustainable difference to individuals, organisations and society. To find out more about the Association for Coaching and our member benefits, follow us on LinkedIn or explore our website at associationforcoaching.com. You can keep up to date with our latest podcast episodes, enjoy the wealth of digital learning offerings, and gain insights from our Coaching Perspectives magazine.